It's a matter of insurance presented by the New Hampshire Insurance Department. Have questions about your insurance coverage? Be sure to call the New Hampshire Insurance Department's Consumer Services Division at 1-800-852-3416. Emailing consumerservices@ins.nh.gov or learn more at our website at nh.gov/insurance. We're joined today by New Hampshire Insurance Department's Enforcement Counsel Josh Hilliard. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, AJ. Glad to be here.
So we recently put out a press release with information regarding this, but I thought it'd be really helpful to do a little more in-depth discussion around limited partner insurance products and some things around it that are maybe a little less than savory with regards to some of them. So now that open enrollment is complete, we offered a warning to Granite Staters about illegitimate or unethical health insurance plans in the market that may be targeting people shopping for coverage now that they can't just enroll on healthcare.gov or something like that. What are these limited partner insurance products?
To give a little more background, as you said, open enrollment's ACA has closed for this year. Of course, people may have what's called a qualifying life event that may make them eligible to sign up for the ACA. So that's something they should, of course, consider if they've been fired or left a job, or they've just gotten married. There's other events, birth of a child, that might be a qualifying life event for that. But if you don't fall in that category, it can be difficult to find health insurance when it's not open enrollment. And what we've seen at the department over the last, I'd say 5 or 6 months, is an influx of complaints from New Hampshire consumers complaining about policies that have been sold outside of open enrollment that provide some health coverage but are really tricky in the way they're created and structured and the benefits they provide. And the really strange thing is what you have are companies out there that are purporting to bring on consumers as a limited partner in their organization. And by doing so, they seek to avoid some of the state regulation we have on insurance, because when they do this, they purport that it's an ERISA plan. It falls under the protections of federal law under ERISA, which then makes it fall largely outside of our jurisdiction here at the department, and also makes it purportedly so they don't have to follow, of course, a lot of the mandates we may have that provide fuller or more robust health coverage for a consumer.
Before we dive into some of the specifics with regards to the way these companies are taking information from consumers that maybe could lead to their data being used in ways they may not expect, what is ERISA? What does it stand for, and what does it have to do with these plans?
It's the Employer Retirement Income Security Act, and it was a federal law passed, I want to say back in the 70s, but don't hold me to that, before I was born, that relates to the benefits that an employer provides to their employees. So it covers much more than just insurance benefits, things like retirement benefits as well. But what we're specifically concerned about is, of course, the connection between a plan offered for health benefits and to New Hampshire consumers. So ordinarily, if you go on, for instance, the exchange, buy an ACA plan, there are a lot of requirements of things it must cover, both under federal law and under state law. It's much thinner or slimmer policy, you might say, that these companies offer when you sign up as a limited partner. That said, it oftentimes can be or may be cheaper than an ACA plan depending on your earnings, given that there are tax credits provided for those who make some percentage of poverty level in terms of the ACA plan they would purchase. So oftentimes it can be quite affordable. But for some persons, it may be a more affordable option to get one of these limited partner plans. The concern, of course, is that it covers much less for the consumer. And what we've seen in the department is many of these companies might be less than forthright in terms of what is actually covered. They can be difficult to contact, and we've had a number of consumers with complaints that have come to us regarding these policies.
Do they make it clear to consumers that they are doing this as like an employee benefit style situation?
Yes and no. It's in the contract. Everyone that I've looked at that's come to the enforcement division of the department with a complaint, and the ones I've been able to get my hands on the contract, because in some of them I haven't, given the difficulty we've had working with some of these companies. There has been language, of course, indicating that the consumer is more or less signing what's called a joinder agreement to become a limited partner of this company. So it's there. Of course, are consumers reading that? Oftentimes not. They're just signing on the dotted line at the end. What we have concerns about as well, though, is that oftentimes the producer who's selling this plan is not being forthright to the consumer in terms of this arrangement. They're just being told, yeah, I've got a much less expensive plan I can get you. It's going to cover great. It's got this great network of benefits. And then lo and behold, the consumer doesn't realize they're become a quote unquote limited partner, nor do they realize the limitations of the plan in terms of coverage.
So what's some of the direct risk to consumers that are maybe looking into these plans? And it mentioned in our press release is multi-level marketing.
Setting aside, of course, the concerns about the weakness of these health plans and the difficulty a consumer may have seeking coverage, we have concerns, of course, about the arrangement in which the consumers are entering as a limited partner of this. As you mentioned, in some, it's almost like a multi-level marketing plan where you sign up to be a limited partner of this company and are afforded the opportunity to sell their products as sort of a middleman. The one that appears even more devious that we see more often is ones in which you become a limited partner of a company and agree to more or less a data sharing agreement. You're required to download a proprietary web browser to use on your phone. The idea being that through that proprietary web browser, the company is collecting your web browsing information, and rather than it just being provided free to potentially Google or Apple, who may use that information in terms of your web browsing to target ads or things like that, that it's going to be packaged up with others who are part of this limited partnership and then sold to other entities to be used, again, for advertising purposes. But that's the purported revenue generating portion of this. The concern, of course, is that there is some web browser that, I'm not an IT guy, I can't speak to the security, but I can certainly identify that there are concerns in terms of what information is being provided to this company, who's getting it. Given that, it's just an odd arrangement that in order to get health insurance, you need to provide your web browsing habits to a company.
As someone who has a bit of an IT background, it's terrifying to hear that a company would be having this be the situation, because especially less than savory companies in these situations can include other spyware and things like that with installations of third-party web browsers and such. Generally speaking, across the board, please don't install third-party web browsers unless you specifically know it's secure, but it's very hard to make sure that's the case. What are some ways that consumers should especially look out for to make sure they're not being taken advantage of by less than savory actors in this space?
The first thing I'd always say is if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. If you're speaking to an agent who tells you, oh, I can get you a plan that's just as great as one on the ACA, but it's going to be half the price, that sounds too good to be true. It probably is. The reason these plans are so inexpensive is often because they cover very little. The other thing I'd recommend is looking back at the complaints we've received. All of them have involved New Hampshire consumers, but working with out-of-state agents. Now, I can't tell you as a blanket statement that every local agent here in New Hampshire is upstanding. I will tell you most of them are. I get to deal with the ones that aren't, and thankfully there's not too many. But if you work with a local agent, they should know the market. They should know what products are legitimately available here in the state. And more importantly, if you as a consumer work with a local agent and there is some issue, I have a lot easier time here at the department unraveling that issue if it's a local agent. I say but the department still has jurisdiction over producers, whether they are licensed here in the state or have a non-resident license and live elsewhere. But if they're local, we tend to have a lot more active control and are able to root out issues and resolve them much more quickly. So it's not a cure-all, but it's certainly something I would recommend to consider is working with a local agent if you're looking to purchase health insurance.
And as always, we promote at the beginning and end of each of these episodes. Our Consumer Services Division is more than happy to answer any questions with regards to this. You want to make sure if they're a resident producer, anything of that nature, please do reach out to us. They are available at 800-852-3416. Emailing consumerservices@ins.nh.gov. Also, if you go to nh.gov/insurance, you can fill out a form right at the top of that page. Has all our contact information there. And follow our social media outlets. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We do post regular updates just like this of this nature. Consumer protection is an important mission here at the department. We want to make sure New Hampshire consumers are protected. So thanks so much, Enforcement Counsel Josh Hilliard, for joining me today.
Of course, happy to be here.
All right. As always, questions regarding your coverage, as I just mentioned, reinforce again, 800-852-3416, nh.gov/insurance. Contact our Consumer Services Division.